When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast, and today we have a special guest. We have Dimple Dang with us, a legal marketing expert, and she works with a lot of firms. And how you doing? You doing well today?
I'm great. How are you, Mark?
Well, got through some glitches and trial and error, and we're getting to become better podcasters because of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I learned today is Zoom is old school, and I think I'm going to switch it up with my podcast team to get better quality. So to the audience, just if you're a podcaster trying to figure out what works, Dimple just gave me an example of using a different app that's a lot clearer, a lot better than Zoom. So I'm going to probably be migrating with my team to do that. So just a little tip in the podcasting world. So anyway, we're here. There's a lot going on in the podcast world. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do, how to do it. And you've been at it for a while. Dimple, what is your advice to the new guys trying to figure out what they're doing? They want perfection in their first launch of their shows. You're never going to be perfect, and people want perfections. I've heard stories where I had a guest on. The guy did 3 takes, 5 takes because he kept on screwing up in his, first recording. What are your suggestions, especially to people out there launching?
You know what, Mark? That's a great question. And it comes up a lot. I think, perfectionism is almost like, a disease or something like I would call a self-limiting belief. And, it gets in the way of people's success all the time. And especially when people launching a podcast, they think that it has to be perfect. They think that they have to sound perfect. They have to look perfect. They have to have the perfect equipment. And in reality, none of that is really that important. I think the most important thing is just getting started, is just taking that leap of faith and doing it, because your episode does not have to be perfect, especially your first 5 to 6 episodes don't have to be perfect. They're learning experiences. So what I tell everybody is, if you think that something has to be perfect, and because of that, you keep delaying and procrastinating, instead of procrastinating, what's better is that you actually force yourself to do it. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable, Mark. It's going to feel a little uneasy. But when something feels uncomfortable, that's when you know that you should be doing that exact thing. That's your path to your growth. So if it does feel a little bit like, okay, I'm not ready to do this, it has to be perfect, you just have to take the leap of faith and do it.
Take the leap and jump. That's what Absolutely. I had to do a year ago. And my first 11 episodes, I was a nervous wreck. Because if you're a natural introvert in this game, you just think about all the people watching you through that little dot on your screen there, and you just get freaked out. It's just a small little dot, and it's not going to hurt you. And I think people just can't get over that psychological block.
Well, Mark, one of the best things about podcasting too is, video is an option. It doesn't have to be video. It can just be audio. So for someone who is more introverted and they don't like being on camera, when they're going to start a new podcast, I would say, even if you record video, you don't have to use it. You can just do it to see your guest, right? But don't even use the video option. Just use audio in the beginning until you're comfortable with that part. Take baby steps. And once you're comfortable with that part, then you can slowly incorporate video. If you're, extremely anxious, right, about launching a podcast, then I say that you really shouldn't put too much on yourself at once. Take baby steps.
Exactly. You got to take baby steps to launch.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't expect to do everything at once. It really is something that, you have to put a plan together, and then you have to figure out how you're going to implement that plan. And you can't make that plan so big that when you look at it, it makes you scared. You have to put it into actionable items. So one of the things I would say is, if you want to launch a podcast and, you want it to be perfect, so you're the kind of person who is a little bit of a perfectionist, divide that up into a 90-day period. And in that 90-day period, divide that up into a 30-day period, like for each month. And each month, figure out what task you're going to work on so that in 90 days, you can have your podcast released. Work on the cover, the artwork, the graphics, work on coming up with a name, work on researching, the domains and the intellectual property to see if the name that you really want to use is actually available. Because the worst thing somebody can do is pick a name and then it's already trademarked and they go through all this trouble and they do all this work and now it doesn't belong to them. So there's ways to do that. You go on Google, you type in the name that you're interested in, and you see if there's a website for it. You go to bluehost.com or godaddy.com, you type in the domain, which is going to be the name of your podcast and your website, and you see if it's taken. If it's taken, go see if there's a website on it. If there's not a website on it, see what year it was purchased. Try to find out how many years that person owns that domain for. And then you can also go to the trademark and patent website and you can put in a search and you can see. The other thing you can do is you can go to all the different social media platforms and you can check and see if the name that you want is being taken. And if it is, you probably should think of another name. Don't be married to a name.
Great point. Yeah, don't be married to your thought or whatever your hobby is, whatever's going to make you money down the road. That's what you should focus on. And just because of the idea doesn't mean the idea is going to work. If it's a hobby, like I've heard people in some other rooms about business development say sometimes your hobby is the worst business idea. As long as the idea makes you money, it may not be what you're in love with, your passion, but hey, you're all about making the dollar.
Yeah, those are two separate things. And sometimes, occasionally your hobby can turn into money, but
Sure.
Sometimes, you have to do things that you may not truly enjoy, but that's what you're good at doing in order to make money.
Exactly. And what have you found in your course of your journey? What platforms has given you the most attraction on your show?
Well, I'm a marketing gal, so I truly believe in marketing your podcast. Like one of the misconceptions that I think a lot of people have is they think they can launch a podcast and then they can launch a show and it's automatically just going to get hundreds of downloads and subscribers and all that. And the reality is it doesn't work that way. You have to build an audience of loyal followers. And hopefully you have some of that before you launch a podcast. Because if you don't have that, once you have a podcast, it's like, where's the audience going to come from? You have to find that audience from somewhere. So first of all, I think it's important to consistently be building your audience and building your personal brand. It doesn't matter if you have a podcast or not, because when you do launch a podcast, you launch a book, whatever, or you launch your own online course, that audience is what's going to be loyal fans, and they're going to motivate you and encourage you, and they're going to look forward to seeing your next episode. So, that's one thing. And then in terms of like what platforms I like to use to promote my show, I think, a couple of platforms that I come to mind that are my favorites. I'm going to name three. So one, we'll talk about Clubhouse. So, that's how you and I met. We met on the Clubhouse app. Right. And, Clubhouse is a great platform to promote anything that you want. And literally all you have to do is you have to start your own room, you create your own club, you create your own community, and you talk about whatever you want because you really have the freedom to create that space to do that. So on Clubhouse, for example, I host rooms on podcasting. So I have a club called Podcasting for Beginners, and I do rooms on different topics. And then I have another club called Mesmerizing Marketing, which is also the name of my podcast. And so I do rooms in that one about Instagram and, SEO and all those kind of things. So the advantage is if I'm doing a room on Instagram Reels, right, I'm teaching the audience how they can utilize Instagram to make Reels, how they can use TikTok, right? And I'm teaching them all of these things. Well, they don't know, most of the people, they don't know how to use any of those platforms. A lot of the people that are interested but don't know how, they've never even used Instagram before, but they know that there's something there because everyone's talking about Instagram Reels, everyone's talking about TikTok. And when they see that, they decide that they want to be part of that excitement. They want to be part of creating that, right? So what I do is I'll host a room and I'll say, oh, by the way, go to the link in my Instagram bio, go to She Wears Stilettos, or I'll say it's linked in my Instagram, in my Clubhouse bio. And I curated a whole playlist of Instagram rooms. And not rooms, Instagram podcast episodes that you can go listen to where so I'll give them a snippet of a strategy because in the room, I don't have time to go like take a deep dive. So I'll give them like maybe a 1-minute version or 2-minute version. But I'll say, if you want to listen to the entire detailed version, go to this episode on my podcast. The link is right there. And what I've noticed is I'll go and look at my analytics. People actually do that. People will not take action unless you tell them to take action. You have to tell them. Like if you don't tell people, Mark, hey, I would love it if you could share my podcast with your friends and leave a review, they're never going to do that. Nope. So we have to, right? We have to take action. We have to ask them to do things because they're just like, they're not mind readers. Like in a Clubhouse room, if you don't say follow the moderators and follow the speakers, people don't do that. So that's really important. So with Clubhouse, I can go and host a room about podcasting and I can say, oh, I have an episode on 10 ways to market your podcast and grow your subscribers. And people will go and they'll download that, right? But then when they download one episode, what I've noticed is they may not just download one episode, they may download 2 or 3 episodes. And by the time they've listened to 2 or 3 episodes of my podcast, they figure out, wow, there's a lot of value there. I learned so much from Dimple. I'm going to now subscribe. And every time she uploads a new episode, I want to be the first to know. Right. And that's how people consume content. So Clubhouse is a great platform. The second platform that I'm going to talk about is the one that people don't really talk about that much, but it's really powerful, is Pinterest.
Interesting.
See, interesting. So you didn't even think of it, did you?
No, I did not. No, I'm not even on there.
Right. But if I would have said Instagram, you were like, yeah, of course, Instagram. Right. But that's like Pinterest is the one people forget about Pinterest. Okay. But Pinterest is really powerful for a couple of reasons. One is it's really good for SEO, search engine optimization, for ranking on Google. So on Pinterest, the graphics that are created are called pins. And you can go to canva.com and you can create beautiful graphics and these, things called pins. And you can take the title of your podcast episode, you can create a beautiful graphic for it, and you can put the link to that specific episode and you can publish that. Now, if you are not an active Pinterest user and you're new, you're starting out, what I like to tell people is invest $1 a day and even just do it for like $3 on one episode, $5 on another episode. And what you'll notice is you're getting like thousands of impressions and you're getting clicks and you're probably getting some people that are, downloading your episode or subscribing. So, I mean, it's very cost effective compared to marketing on platforms like Facebook, where it's very expensive, or marketing on Google under the sponsored section, which is called pay-per-click, which used to sell for many years. And that's gotten extremely expensive now, extremely. So Pinterest is very cost effective. And it's just a platform that you can post something and even months later, it can start taking off. So you'd never think like 4 months later, now that pin is suddenly getting a ton of traffic. So it works in a different way than other platforms, but it's a great platform to repurpose all of your podcast episodes and also any of your blog post content that you have on your website. Even your Instagram reels, you can repurpose those there to get more traffic. So, so that's that. The other thing with Pinterest is they have something called idea pins, and idea pins are similar to the concept of on Instagram stories. And idea pins are newer. They didn't have them like a year ago. And you can, post something and that kind of image stays there for like about a day and it goes away and it disappears. So Clubhouse, Pinterest is the second one. The third one is going to be Instagram. And by Instagram, specifically, I want to talk about Instagram Reels, because short form video content is really, really popular right now. But when I say Instagram, I'm going to say Instagram/TikTok, because it's not just Instagram. Instagram and TikTok, like together, they go together because they're both have short form video content called Reels, right? So on Instagram, what you want to do is you want to make short form video content 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, about your podcast. So what I mean is, do not take the audio file and put it there. What I mean is put yourself in it. Like, you're Mark, you'd go in there and you'd say, I recently, interviewed Dimple on my podcast on this topic. Here were the top 3 takeaways. And you could do an Instagram reel. You can point, you can say, number 1, she talked about Clubhouse. Number 2, Pinterest. Number 3, this. To listen to the entire episode, go to whatever the URL is, or, the name of your podcast where they can find it. Right. And that's an example of how someone can create, an Instagram reel to promote their podcast episode. And it just really gets, a lot of traffic. It's really big right now. That's what Instagram wants to see, because they're in competition with TikTok.
Right. Totally.
TikTok's taken a lot of the audience. They've taken a lot of the pie. And so now they're rewarding people for that. But the other thing about, social media platforms like Instagram is, when you utilize Instagram, you really have to utilize all of their features to maximize one aspect of the feature that you're using. So by that, I mean, if you're going to create an Instagram reel, you want to be posting to your stories, like, 6 to 8 stories a day. You want to be posting 3 to 5 posts a week. And those posts can be a post with one photo, and one of them can be a carousel post that has like 5 photos, which is what I actually use a lot of to promote my podcast guest and my podcast interviews that I do. So you can do a variety of things, right? But you have to utilize the platform, and you also have to engage with your audience. So you have to go on Instagram before you're about to post your reel, and you need to go and you need to show some love to your other friends on there and comment on their posts and their videos and their reels. But don't just comment to do it as if it's a task and you're just going. You have to do it in a manner that is really authentic. You need to be reading their posts. Like, what did they write about? Okay, they got a new puppy. The puppy's now in the hospital. Take the time to read and not just look at the photos. And that's something people forget. They look at the photos. They don't read the captions. You have to read the captions, because the captions are important. So
that triggers the algorithms in Instagram, right?
It does. So what happens is, Mark, if I spent 15 to 20 minutes commenting on other people's accounts, and then I say, okay, I'm going to post my Instagram reel now, what happens is the platform, so Instagram is going to start alerting those people, hey, Dimple just posted a comment on your post, and they're going to be getting these alerts. So even if they were not online at that time, they're going to get an alert on their phone. It's going to beep, and they're going to be drawn to pick up their phone and go and see out of curiosity. And their also inclination is going to be to thank the person. So they're going to thank me for saying, oh, thank you, for, the kind words, or thank you, that's so sweet of you. And then right at the moment, you have them hooked. They're all online. And then what do? You go and you push the button, and you publish your reel. And now they're seeing your reel because you got them online. The second thing is, they're like, oh, well, she is always nice, and she always posts and engage with my post, and I appreciate that. I'm going to show her some love, and I want to actually reciprocate that. And that's what people do. It's like the law of human nature.
Right.
And so that's how you're able to have success with Instagram.
It's a crazy engine, and probably I think Instagram is the most profitable part of Facebook as we speak, from what I'm hearing.
It
That's
is.
the moneymaker for Facebook, and who would have thought? Instagram of all.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram ads, like you're flipping through stories and you see like a 3-second ad. I mean, that's like there's tons of advertising and it's just going to increase.
And now the talk, Dimple, now is, well, Facebook is they're creating their own chat rooms like Clubhouse, and they're offering badges and stuff to versus Clubhouse. And everybody's talking about Facebook maybe the next new Clubhouse. But I'm like, well, there's a lot of restrictions with Facebook, as we know, versus Clubhouse. There's less restrictions on free speech, and you're not going to get censored and all that in Clubhouse. And so there's a lot of conversations on, oh, shoot, Facebook is going to give Clubhouse a run for its money. I really don't think so. I think Clubhouse is going to keep blowing up because of the freedom that the moderators have and the speakers that come on stage have. They feel they can voice their thoughts, their opinions without being quieted, versus go to Facebook. We know what's going to happen. That's why everybody's leaving Facebook, is because of the issues of censorship on freedom of speech. Do you have any thoughts on those algorithms affecting, and which platform might be better for the person that wants to push themselves out there?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, a couple of years ago, I mean, I loved Facebook. I used it all the time. I was on there every day. And then I started to see a shift, Mark, where a lot of my friends were like on Instagram. And back then, I didn't want to get on Instagram because I thought to myself, oh, great, one more thing I have to like now manage another platform. I'm already busy. I don't have time for this. I just was like, whatever. And I thought it was just for like girls with bikinis and stuff, like whatever. Right. So I was like, okay, I don't care. Right. But then some of my good friends started going on there more and more. I'm like, if they're going on there, maybe I need to check it out. What is on there? So then I went and created an account, and then I'm like, wait, this is not just like for bikini photos anymore. It is actually a platform that people are using to promote their coaching businesses and, like their sense of fashion and their lifestyle and, all different type of things. And so that's when I was like, okay, the light bulb went on and I'm like, I'm going to start using Instagram more. Now, when I first started my account, I remember it was probably, I don't know, 4 years ago, at least something like that. I started it. And in the beginning, it was really easy to grow. But I still didn't make that much time for it. And then just something happened. They changed the algorithm and it was just like hard to grow. And when that happened, honestly, like I just didn't use it that much because I was like, oh, well, nothing's happening. It's a waste of time. It's too hard. Clubhouse came along. And because of Clubhouse, I mean, I've been able to grow my Instagram account like probably like by 4 or 5 times. And it would have taken me, if it wasn't for Clubhouse, it would have taken like, 2 years to do what's been done. So, because here's the thing too, in Clubhouse rooms, I'm very adamant about telling people not just to follow me there, but to take the conversation to Instagram and follow me there. Because I always say I post my rooms and my stories and exclusive events and interviews and things that are not going on Clubhouse. That's why you want to follow me. So when I tell them, here's going back to the thing of like, when you tell someone to do something, they take action. There's an advantage in that, right? So people react to that. So, but Facebook, going back to answer your question about Facebook, I'm not convinced, Mark. I mean, I checked out like some rooms today that some people were doing. One person's like a former like a news broadcaster, so he's got a built-up audience. Then someone else is like, like a big thought leader. People are not actively doing rooms on there. So my opinion is Facebook had every opportunity to come out with something that would have and could have even been better than what Clubhouse did. But because they were late to the game, they're always late to the game, and I mean, they've done a good job with Instagram, but then with Clubhouse, like, it's just not, it's like they're coming up with ideas, but they're too late to the game. They've lost their audience. Like, I don't really go on there. If I go on there, like I might go on there every few days and then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know this happened to my friends. Cause I have a lot of friends that are still on there. And then I feel bad because I'm like, oh, I didn't know that you weren't feeling well. I didn't know that this happened. It's like you miss like so much, right?
Sure.
But I'm not convinced. So, I mean, I wish they would come up with something. I do have a good audience there too, but I'm just not convinced. Now, the one thing I might be a little excited about is podcasting. They're going to bring their own podcasting kind of platform player to Facebook. When they do that, maybe I'll start promoting my podcast there. Right now, I don't even promote it there.
Interesting. I know I've been on there for about a year promoting it. I think I picked up probably 200 to 300 followers on Facebook. That's just mainly my podcast, and of course, on Facebook, as you have friends and family people that you know.
Organic reach is down too.
Is it?
Organic reach has been way down on Facebook for a while. So the only way you can really reach a lot of people if you do paid ads. But the problem with paid ads, I would want to run paid ads on my personal brand page, which you can't do. You can only run them on a business page. On a business page, the audience that's there is not the same loyal audience that is on my personal page. The personal page is where if I post something, people are going to interact with it. So what I've noticed a trend is a lot of people that even have business pages and personal pages, and they're, like coaches and entrepreneurs, they don't even use their business page.
True.
They use their personal page to promote. Yep, and true. And for a while, a lot of people are using Facebook groups, but, even groups, like it just kind of like it's a clunky, it could be more modern. Like when you think about groups, and I don't know if you've heard of a platform called Discord, but Discord is so modern and there's so many things you can do with it and you can find things easily. But, I think they have a long way to go.
Okay. Yeah, this is great advice to the audience, Dimple, on where to go, what platforms are hot right now, and where to spend your money and spend your time. And I know a lot of podcasters getting in the industry, they'll be looking at you. They probably follow me a little bit, trying to get an idea on what tactic, what system, what process to do. And it's very complicated. I mean, what you just explained, that's a team of probably 3 people at a full-time job, 5 days a week. That's a full-time job. And there's many agencies like yourself. You're a legal marketing expert in this genre, in this industry. And you also work with lawyers too. You collaborate with them. What do lawyers look for you to do for them?
Well, what's interesting is now, what they look for me to do is so much more than what it was 2 years ago. So now they work with me where they want to do a VIP day and they want to learn. They want me to teach them how to use social media. They want to learn how to use Instagram, how to make Instagram reels, how to make TikTok reels, how to come up with an entire strategy for their content. Whereas before it's I need a website. I need blogs on a monthly basis for my divorce practice where, you write about different divorce, articles. But now it's more so almost being more so like a coach and a consultant and advisor and really just teaching them and giving them the strategy. And this is what's changed too.
Okay.
The legal industry, before there's a lot of old school, meaning the lawyers that have been practicing law for 20, 30 years, and they might be in their 50s and 60s. And then they are used to spending money on marketing, paying for stuff. They'll pay $10,000 a month for pay-per-click campaigns. When I was in corporate America, that's what I used to sell. I sold a book of business from zero to $1 million in 22 months or something, of people that were paying to advertise on Google to show up in the sponsored section on page 1. And now the younger lawyers, they don't have the budgets to pay for that marketing, and it's become very competitive. Oh. So what they would rather focus on is they'd rather focus on trying to rank organically with SEO, with creating content, creating YouTube videos. But also a lot of lawyers are getting business from, believe it or not, TikTok and from Instagram, from making their reels. And I know this because a couple of weeks ago, we just finished a challenge with my lawyers where they were making reels. So we have lawyers they were making Instagram reels and TikTok reels. It was so much fun. We even did a contest, and there was who was the funniest, who had the most, viral. And a lot of them surprised me because they never made reels in their life. I taught them what to do. They did it, and they ended up going viral. And then a lot of them were like, oh my God, I actually got a case out of this. And I didn't expect anyone to really get a case out of it, but they have. And so in November, I'm going to launch 2.0, another Reels challenge, but this time it's going to be not just for lawyers, it's going to be for everyone. I might even have two separate ones, one for the lawyers and one for everyone else. But we're taking it to the whole other level where I'm going to teach them how to do like the fun transitions and the tricks where it's like not just a normal reel, but it's like, wow, I want people to look at their reel and be like, how did she do that? So that's going to be fun.
Genius. That is genius. I mean, who would have guessed law firms would be connecting to you to help them grow their business and get a case? It's just like, that's so non-typical of a law firm's mentality. Usually they have private investigators that feed in business and different, district attorneys and stuff like that. And I even work with law firms. They refer us business when they have an investigation go down. And then we also led the security group. We also do continued education with law firms to advise their clients who are corporations on mitigating risk assessments, and, COVID-19 issues, vaccine issues. Well, we don't go into that, but we provide security, asset protection for a lot of their clients. And then workplace violence type of things and continued education training for physical security. And so we definitely work with law firms in that. Now you're having to support them to get young eyeballs of people that are millennials that are going in corporate America and getting promoted in high C-suite level positions. And they work differently. They think differently. It's no longer the yellow book. What's that? What's the phone book?
Yellow pages. And it's funny you say that because that's what I sold back in the day. That was one of my jobs.
Holy
I was
crap.
a yellow rep before I was selling like the pay-per-click ads. I mean, like I have an extensive background in marketing. That's why I know so much. But I mean, I've sold it all. So in Yellow Pages, you think about all the books are this big. And there's all these different categories of businesses. So I know something about every business, right? But that's when I got my experience in the legal industry working with like some of the top law firms in Chicago is from the Yellow Pages, And what's interesting is like now, like a couple of weeks ago, I had a law firm approach me. I don't even know how they found me, and I wanted to ask them and I forgot. I thought it had to be from Clubhouse, but they weren't on Clubhouse. I don't even know, but I bet it was someone from Clubhouse that gave them my info. Or I do write for Attorney at Law magazine, which I've been writing for them for years on online marketing and social media articles for the legal industry. Could be that, I don't know. But anyway, they came to me and they saw the value of TikTok. And so basically they were trying to get me to be an ambassador for their firm to make videos for them for TikTok and for Instagram.
Wow.
Like and I would have done it, but the practice area was so niche that I just didn't think it would work for them. So I mean, and I won't work with someone if it's not going to work for them. So I said, I don't think this is going to work. Instead, I would recommend you do some other things, and these are the other things that you should do. But that's the thing. They are seeing what's happening. And when you go on TikTok and type in a keyword like attorney or lawyer or ESQ by the hashtag and see all the videos that come up, you'll be surprised. There's tons of lawyers on there. Like one of my friends who I met from Clubhouse, she's a lawyer, and she went to a TikTok lawyers convention in Vegas in July, and she invited me, and I didn't go, but
Right.
maybe next year I'll go. But I mean, they have like actual convention for these things now.
Wow. So the whole industry is evolving and changing, and they had to become fearless in their approach of getting business. And a lot of their clients are probably big firms using brand ambassadors on TikTok, pushing their brands, pushing their name, whatever they're doing. And you have
right now, I mean, right now, actually, a lot of them, they're doing it themselves. It's like the younger lawyers are doing it themselves, but the older lawyers want to do it, but they don't really have the time. They have established, firms, and they're busy, but I can see them, hiring someone like me to do that. And if it was a good fit, I would say yes. Right. But it has to be the right fit. It has to work. Right. If somebody like does like divorce and family law or personal injury, and they came to me and said, can you do that? I'd say probably I can, but then it's like I have to factor in the time it takes too. And because it's not as easy as it looks, it's a lot of time, right?
Sure.
And if I'm doing everything for them, I'm coming up with a script. I'm coming up with the concept. I'm coming up with, the ideas and everything. That's like a full-time job. You know what I mean? So they want it, but then they don't want to pay for it. So then do it yourself.
Has your podcast elevated your platform to get business? Have you seen the return on your investment yet? As little time as you've been in podcasting, have you seen results yet, or what have you seen in your personal experience as far as getting growth from lawyers, let's say, or law firms?
Well, here's the thing. So the podcast that I have right now, it's called Mesmerizing Marketing. So it's on marketing. Initially, Mark, I was actually started working on a legal industry podcast where I even interviewed probably 7 to 8 lawyers. And I decided to put that on hold at the time because I wanted something that was just all mine. And I decided to launch Mesmerizing Marketing, which I did. And I'm glad I did. So now what I want to do in the month of October is I have some interviews already, but there's some people I want to interview. I want to interview a bunch of other people. And in November, I want to launch the legal industry podcast. And that's the one where I would see like, okay, potential clients coming from and leads from. For the one I have right now, I mean, I don't know. I don't know because it's not like people have said like, oh, I came to you from the podcast, things like that. But what I have seen is an increase in the credibility and being asked to be a guest on other people's shows, which before me having my own podcast in all of these years, only one person asked me to be on their podcast. So it's like literally you go from being a nobody to a somebody. And that's what I say, that you can build a brand by, having your own podcast. Like I think everybody should have their own podcast. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, because you can build your own, brand. And it's like your perception becomes reality. So when people perceive you and they see you everywhere, it's almost like you're a celebrity in your own status, right? People are like, oh my God, like I know you, I see you. And, and the more that you're out there, the more like that is prevalent. So even like on Clubhouse, I may not notice it. For me, it is what it is, and I just do it. But I think the people that are newer to the platform are like, oh my God, like she's got almost 12,000 followers. And oh my God, she's doing all these rooms. And oh my God, she's got a podcast, right? But for me, I'm like, I'm just doing what I wanted to always do, and I waited long enough to do it. So now I'm going super hard. Like, in fact, by the end of this year, I mean, there's 3 podcasts that I'm going to have by the end of this year.
3 separate podcast genres.
Yep. And I have ideas for another 2 or 3 more that would be like mini podcasts. And by that, I mean podcasts that I just want to launch, like maybe 5 to 10 episodes. And it's about a particular topic or a season. And then that's it. It just sits there like a micro podcast.
Interesting. Is that where it's going, you think, Dimple? Is that the trend you're seeing and hearing about?
Yeah, I do. And, I was in a Clubhouse room and I was talking to Cliff Ravenscraft, and he was the one that brought this up. And, he's been podcasting for years. And so if he said this, I was like, yeah, that's really a great idea. So he said, you can have multiple podcasts that are niche in a specific, category. And then you can just leave it there. You can publish it. You can publish 6 to 10 episodes all at once, and you don't have to do anything. But there is some advantage to that. The advantage is if you are strategic, which I am strategic with my marketing, everything I do, it's like, what's the strategy behind it? If there's no strategy, I'm not going to do it. Right. And that's the same way with my clients. I always think of strategy. They may not think of it. I'm like, well, why are you picking that domain name when you can pick this? And here's the advantage of this domain name versus this, right? And you explain it to them and then they get it. But the advantage is if you pick a name strategically of your podcast where it is searchable online, it describes exactly what that service is or what that product is or what you do. Well, and if it's a little bit on the niche side, people type that in, your podcast comes up, it still may come up 3 years later, even if you haven't published an episode, because Google has indexed all of the content there.
Good point.
Very and good now point. People don't realize this, but you know how like back in the day you used to do a search and then you see like YouTube videos come up?
Yeah.
Well, just like YouTube videos would come up now, podcasts come up in their own section on Google sometimes when you do a search. So I did a search, a week or two ago, and I was like, oh, wow, my podcast is coming up right next to Amy Porterfield.
Jeez.
And then mine was first, hers was second, and somebody else was third, and they have thousands of episodes. And right. I don't, but it's because of the strategy. It's how you title your episodes. It's how you pick your name. It's, the SEO on the back end, all of that stuff counts.
Well, I think people listening that are launching a podcast or about ready to jump in podcasting, I think they just had a master class by you.
Thank you.
And so I'm sure your next strategy session this fall is going to be a pretty big hit.
My next what strategy session?
Your next strategy session, your master class you're having this fall with the law firms and all that. I was going to ask.
I'm having a master class for podcasting. I did one about a week ago, and it was really well received. I mean, everybody who attended loved the information. And so I'm doing another one, I think November 6th. And the details are on my Instagram bio link, and my handle is She Wears Stilettos. But, because here's the thing, people think podcasting, all I need is a mic and all I need is Zoom or something. But in reality, it's not that simple. Like if you want to produce a quality podcast, there's a lot that goes into it. And you also have to know how to market your podcast. You have to know how to produce content that people actually want to consume. It takes a little bit of thought process. It takes a little bit of planning. And people, if they throw shows together, you're not going to have a show that's going to be around 2 months later. You're going to give up because it's not going to go anywhere. So, and even using a platform like you saw, us trying to use Riverside.fm that I recommended,
right.
Without knowing how to use it and what settings you need. And if I hadn't said you need to use it on Chrome, you wouldn't know that, right? So it's all the little things that's that I've learned through my experience. I can teach to people, and I'm saving them hours of learning curve and hours of frustration.
And that's worth time and money to you being a subject matter expert, because you've already been there down that road, 6-7 months later, and a new person went well, what do I do? Well, like you said, it's more than a headset. It's more than a laptop. You got processing, you got editing, you got apps for that. And I for myself, as you know, I have a team behind me. I employ about a half a dozen people to work for me, not all in America, but overseas. They do a great job at producing a great product for half the cost I would pay for an American. It's just the way it works in economics. And my show wouldn't be what it is without my team behind me, because I'm not going to spend 40 hours a week editing and processing and uploading. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time because I have other businesses to run too. And law firms, lawyers that need you to help them produce, edit, whatever they're doing, it takes a team. I'm sure you have a team supporting you in the back end of the legal marketing expert. You have to have a team. There's no way one person can do all that stuff. What does your organization look like?
Yeah. I mean, for example, we produce a lot of content, right? That's one of the things that we've done for years is producing content. So, it's you find the best people, right? And you just are outsourcing them, but you've known them for years. Some of the people I, I've worked with them for years on projects. And when it's something that's very niche, like legal, you can't just have anyone do it. They have to have a background. So for example, the people that I have that write content, they're either former lawyers, they're paralegals, or they have a degree in journalism. You know what I mean? So it's not anyone can say, oh, I can write legal content, because you can't do it. Right. So you have to find people that are really experienced in that niche, because legal is a tough thing. it's not like you can just hire anybody to do it. And you can't like go get a VA from the Philippines to work on that kind of stuff. Right now, I mean, I'd love to have a VA for myself. Right. I would love to have one to do things that I don't want to do. But even then, am I going to give them too much control? No, because I like having control over things because I don't know if they can do certain things as well as I can. I just don't know. And I don't know if I want to teach them all that stuff because it's like more time that it takes me to teach them. I can just do it myself, right?
Because you're talking about your brand, reputation, and people that trust you, especially you're dealing with law firms that trust you with very proprietary information, confidential information that have billions of dollars, millions of dollars at stake. They just can't let anybody on a street corner deal with that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to know your journalists that know how to write reports, write papers. They have to have that skill set as long as you're paralegals. And then, of course, your law firms that are retired lawyers or attorneys that are subject matter experts in those different industries. And that's just how it works. And it's very complex.
Yeah. You have to have, some basic understanding of law and how, things work, because even terminology that's used in one state might be different terminology in another state from state to state. And someone who is not in the legal industry will not know that, right? So I think there's so many important considerations to take in. And, one of the things that law firms should be doing is they should be producing and writing content, right? And some of them do it on their own, but a lot of them just don't have the time for it. That's why they should hire someone like me or another professional firm to do that, because every time you're creating content, like, this is really important. It's like content is king. Everyone knows that. But the reason why it's really important too is that when you create content on your website, let's say you have a WordPress website, you create content, you have a blog and you post a new article once a week or whatever. Think about somebody who's posting two articles a week, and by the end of the year, they have like almost like, over 100 articles, and your competition is not posting content. So they don't have that. So what happens is the person that's posting all that content, and they posted 100 articles over the course of a year, that means that they have 100 additional pages to their website. Now, that's really important, because when you think about when you do searches on Google and how you always see the big websites come up first, think about it. That's because they have millions and thousands of pages, millions of pages. And that's the same concept. Like, if you are in competition and you're a personal injury attorney and you have 20-page website and your competition has a website that's got 300 pages because they've been producing content consistently for like 5 years, that person is going to be rewarded by Google, and Google is going to organically rank their website higher. And not just that, that means they now have 500 times more chances of coming up on page one.
Wow.
Of being found under search result, under, a specific keyword phrase or multiple keyword phrases.
That's insane.
So I always tell people, produce content. And a trick is, like, you can save so much time if you're writing content for yourself about a subject matter that it's in your brain, you just know it. Even Word has this feature now where you can just dictate the microphone and you can just speak, and you can do an article, and like an article that would normally take you an hour to write, you can do that in 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Insane. Times have changed. Just with an app, with a microphone, you can write a book, I've heard.
Yeah, because I used to have to write like articles, for my Attorney at Law magazine publication, like 800 words. Normally it would take me an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half sometimes. And now it's like, I can just talk, and that'll take me maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I spend another maybe 15 minutes to edit it and fix it up. Right. 30 minutes versus an hour and a half. I'll take it.
What's the name of your magazine again?
It's not my magazine. It's called Attorney at Law magazine. And it's a publication that's all over the US. And I actually write for the Los Angeles division. So Attorney at Law magazine, LA, Los Angeles division. Actually, if you go to the link in my Instagram bio, at the very bottom, there's a link and it takes you to all my articles. So I have like, I don't know, I've got like yours, like I've done this for years. So I haven't even counted, but probably almost 100 articles myself on there.
100 articles. That's pretty impressive.
Probably, yeah, something like that.
I know you have a lot of lawyers that go to your club and clubhouse, your room, and yeah, pretty impressive. Like one lawyer, I remember he had his own private jet. It's on his own. He has his own radio show. I'm like, I forget
Frederick
what.
Penny. Yeah, Frederick.
Nice guy,
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
very
Yeah. I was
talented.
supposed to actually go out there to LA to meet a bunch of, because a lot of the lawyers, they're all in California. But because of the pandemic, I, decided to not go. But I mean, I'll make it out there in the spring or whatever. But no, he's amazing. And, he does a great job at marketing. So speaking of him, like he's going to be on my podcast too, but he does a great job of marketing because he does press releases on a monthly basis, not just quarterly, monthly. And he's asked to interview me to be on some of his press releases and like take quotes for me. So he knows what he's doing.
He does.
And he does a lot of it himself. He's not like paying someone to write the press release and stuff like that. He's a busy guy, right? He's got one of the top PI firms in LA, but he's really just loves like to do marketing, and some people really enjoy it.
Yeah, I call him like the Michael Jordan of law firms. I mean, the guy's a brander. He knows how to brand. He got his own jet. How many lawyers, have a private jet, and he's on a radio show. The guy is
TikTok videos, Instagram, Reels, all that. And then, he built up his account to like, I think it was, I don't know. I mean, I can check right now, but I mean, it's pretty, high numbers. And I think one of his accounts got taken down or something, and he started another one. But I mean, he consistently is posting because I'm connected to him on Instagram. He's posting, and I'm seeing like his videos now and, highlighting people in the community. And so not only is he like creating content, he's creating quality content where it shows like him as a person that he cares about his community and he cares about the people.
Right. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in your room and I connected with him and just started texting him on Instagram. I'm like, holy cow, this is weird. Because the clubhouse, I made a connection with you. I was in the room and I met him. And, not every day you run into an attorney that has his own jet and is very successful at branding himself. I admired his mentality. He kind of reminds me of Grant Cardone, but in the legal world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the guy's very smart. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And humble.
But yeah, I got that from very humble. And some of these guys are, some lawyers are just not pleasant to be around.
Right. And do you also know Mark Wasserman with Pop Brothers at Law? Because he's another brilliant brander.
I've seen him on Instagram. I think we connected a little bit in text, but I don't know him that well, but I've seen his stuff.
He was on my podcast. You can go listen to the episode that I interviewed him on how he basically built up, a loyal following of like 1 million followers collectively on social media, because he's got a great story to tell with that. But he is another one consistently posts on social media every single day. He posts way more, like even 20 times more than what Frederick, does, but he's always posting. He's got TikTok, he's got Instagram Reels, Twitter. He's everywhere. Like I don't use Twitter that much, but I posted like my episode from yesterday and he commented and I'm like, how do I even know him on Twitter? And then I forgot his episode when it came out and I must have connected with him there.
So, Dimple, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So if you are an attorney, you want to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, which is attorneymarketingexpert.com. Again, attorneymarketingexpert.com. And otherwise, the best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is She Wears Stilettos. And if you click on the link in the bio there, it takes you to like a website that has all of my information, different links, what I have going on, as well as my podcast. And then if you want to check out my podcast, you can go to mesmerizingmarketingpodcast.com. And it is also on Apple and Spotify and Google, basically everywhere.
So audience, please support Dimple Dang, legal marketing expert in her own master genius. She's, as you can tell through the conversation we just had, she knows a lot of people. She knows what she's doing. She's the real deal. Unfortunately, in Clubhouse, there's a lot of bots and fake profiles and people embellish a lot of things. That's anywhere in social media. But Dimple is the real thing. She is the real deal. And she's connected to law firms and she does marketing. And she knows she explained Pinterest. I was like, I thought that was a girl's thing for shopping. I had no idea. And so she just explained her credibility in the podcasting world. Please follow her podcast and follow this show, because I will be, what they call it, tagging in Instagram once we release this episode in a few weeks. And I'm sure we'll do more discussions. And this is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast. And we actually do continued education for law firms. So this is a really good collaboration, kind of a marketing tool for both Dimple and myself to put the word out there that, I'm able to service law firms for their private investigation cases and stuff like that. So this is not just about Twitter, not about just about Instagram or Facebook. We're telling the audience about how you can be very successful, but what are the system and processes of being successful and how to launch properly. And, you can learn from our mistakes and make your journey shorter. And with that said, thanks, Dimple, for coming on the show. And it was a learning experience for me, too. There's some stuff I learned that I had no idea. And as you were talking, I'm like, well, I need to tell my social media guy and my web designer what to do, not to do. And I have to tell my producer, hey, we need to jump on this platform versus that platform. And you covered a lot of territory. And I know you're very busy. What is your going rate if anyone wants to hire you? So let's say I'm an attorney firm. What is your charge for a month of services for what you guys do?
What we do is so customized. There's we're not a cookie cutter type of service. So everything we do is customized. The process is they can set up a free consultation and I will ask them a ton of questions, figure out what it is that their needs are, where they want to go. And then we come up with something custom. So there's actually not even a price for anything, not a price for a website, for anything. Everything is really custom. It's not like we have package A, B, C. It's literally, who are you? What do you want? If you want content, well, how many pieces of content do you need? How many words are they going to be? Everything's custom. But I will say, so you just mentioned about the legal investigations thing. Well, you should be a guest on my legal podcast then, because that might be a great one. So let's connect on that and get you on the calendar for October, because I do want to launch that in November and then you can be part of the release.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to join you on that show. Yeah. And just information on what's going on. I think 2022 is going to be a crazy year, and a lot of corporations are going to need us for, asset protection and everything. As you know, you watch the news for 1 minute, you know what's going on in the world. And people
where do you service the entire U.S. or where do you live? Do you service only your city and state, or?
I'm licensed in Oregon, but I have business partnerships throughout the country. I've serviced largest firm as far as security services go for the last few years, and I have in any major city in America, I can fill a job.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great episode, because we can talk in terms of the legal industry. What are the type of questions that they should be asking their security team for, all that stuff, but we'll figure it out. But I would be happy to have you on that one.
Thanks for the invite. I'll definitely take you up on that and help you be part of that guest lineup for your show and this fall and the holiday season. Be perfect timing for that. Because I know business usually slows down fourth quarter. If I can say anything to the podcasters, if you're trying to get sponsorships and all that, people start running out of their money at fourth quarter, and they're trying to spend it, and then they're trying to get their bonuses out of that budget too. And so you're better off first quarter, second quarter next year asking people for sponsorships, because usually this time of year nobody wants to talk business; they're wrapping books up. So just a little tip and to the podcasters that want to make that sponsorship money. Anyway, with that said, this is Mark with the Fearless Mindset and Dimple Dang with Legal and Marketing Expert. And we'll wrap it up. And please follow her on Clubhouse, follow her on Instagram, and everywhere else she's at. And we'll catch you guys all soon. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next segment.